Hi, my name is Mahyar, and in this multi-part tutorial we will model and render a Google Pixel phone from start to finish in Blender. Check out the YouTube playlist and reference files in the description below. Let's get started. Okay, first we need to gather some reference images for modeling the phone. I'm using GSM Arena for this. Most of the angles of the phone has been covered. For the angles that we don't have here, for example top and bottom, you can use this 3D interactive object here. I'll rotate the phone to the angle that I want and take a screenshot from, for example, top and bottom of the phone to use it on Blender. Go back to GSM Arena and go to specifications. Here you can see the phone dimensions. I have to create a mesh with this exact dimensions so that I can place my reference images at the correct proportion. I go to the front view, press Shift A and create a cube, press N. You can see the dimension here. In the Z direction, it has to be 162.8 millimeters. The default units on Blender are meters, so we have to divide it by 1000. The X direction is 76.6 millimeters. And I'll do it for the thickness of the phone. Now, if you press the dot on the numpad, we can see that here is the phone bounding box dimension. I go back to the front view, press Shift A and add a reference image. As you can see, it is too big. We should scale it so that it matches our guide mesh. Press Alt Z to make the mesh transparent so that we can scale it easily. As you can see, it is perfectly matched with our dimension. First, we need to select the image and rename it to front. I press M and create a new collection as ref. Now, in the image properties, we want to only show it in orthographic view angles, for example, only in front. We want it to only be visible when we are looking at it from its front. So when we go to the back view, we don't want to see any image of the front view. You can always see the keys I press in the bottom right of the screen. We are in the top view. You can see that the camera part that is sticked out are not included in the dimension. Okay, we now have all the reference images that we want. We go to the front view. Here's the mesh that I'm using to model the phone. Since we have changed the dimensions of the cube that we created, its scaling is not one in all size anymore. So before we do any modifications on this mesh, we have to press Ctrl A and press all transforms to make the scaling perfect. Otherwise, when we want to bevel some edges, we have different bevel radius in the different sides of the mesh, and that's not what we want. Okay, now I want to start modeling the frame of the phone. Since in some places, like the top view, we have curvature that are being cut by microphone and this patch here, we might need to use a subdivision surface in order to use shrink wrap modifier to have perfect curvature and reflections on the body panel. I first model the frame by insetting the surface. I select the front surface, inset it in a round number. 1 millimeter is good. I will repeat the process for the back surface. And I will delete these two surfaces. Okay, now before we make a subdivision surface modifier, I want to delete 3/4 of this frame, because before we make any patches and holes, everything is symmetrical. So it's easier for us to model a quarter of the frame. And add mirror modifier. Okay. Now, in order to have a perfect radius here, we have to do it manually here first, and then we go to adding edge loops and support loops. I bevel this in an even number. Now that I am seeing, in order to have a perfect circular shape here, all the curves you see here from screen to the edge of the phone should have the same center of the circle. So they should all converge to a point here. But as you can see, when we inset this surface, due to the height of the phone and the displacement from the center of the phone, all the lines are converging to somewhere in the center of the phone, and that's not what we want, because the curvature here should be regardless of the height of the phone. I will delete these edges, and I will copy one of these vertices and place it on the center that I want, and then extrude these edges along that center. Make sure the snapping is on the vertex. It is deactivated now. I can activate it whenever I need by holding down the control button. I will copy this vertex by Shift D. It is in the move mode. Press Z and hold down the control and place my cursor on this vertex. Now this is a circle. This is a circular shape with the center of this place. Now I can place the 3D cursor here by holding down Shift S and cursor to selected. I don't need this vertex anymore. I will select this one, press E, S. Now I'm scaling towards this place. That's not what I want. I will press Ctrl Z. Set this to 3D cursor. Now I select this by holding down Ctrl, E, S. I go to the front view. I can copy this edge that I have made here by Shift D Y control. Now this is the perfect rail that I want along the frame of the phone. Now I can press these two vertices, E, Z. I can now press F and F. Make sure to delete this center surface. Select these two vertices, E, Z, here. And this. This is the perfect shape that we want. Now, in order to have a flat surface from this point onwards, I can press an edge loop here and another edge loop here as a support loop. Now we are ready to add a subdivision surface modifier. You can simply search for subdivision surface here and add 2 level, or it's an easier way to press Ctrl 2 to have 2 levels of subdivision surface. And shade auto smooth. Now we need some support loops here. To match the phone's curvature, I think that's perfect. Now we have the base frame that we want. All is left is just adding cuts and buttons to this surface. So I will copy this frame as a backup. I will rename it to frame backup. And duplicate it by Shift D. You can now apply the mirror modifier because nothing is symmetrical anymore from this point. Since our backup frame is our reference frame for applying shrink wrap modifier, it should always have 2 more levels of subdivision surface than our actual frame. I will hide it now and add to its level of subdivision surface. Now I go to our frame. Let's start with modeling, for example, this microphone hole. I can delete this vertex. Circle. It's still on the 3D cursor. I will press Ctrl Z. Cursor to selected. Now at the circle. 16 is too much. 8 is enough. Scale it down. Go to the front view. Try to match it as close as possible to the surface. Before we connect it to the surface, I will make it larger and then inset it so that we have a support loop here. Now we can connect this to the surface. I set the matte cap to something shiny like this one. As you can see, we have reflection problems here, but now we can add shrink wrap modifier. First, we should recalculate our surface. Make sure face orientation is turned on. Now, every face that is flipped will be red like this. Shade auto smooth. You can see that we have some reflection problems here. Now we can use shrink wrap modifier. Let's first extrude this inwards. I want to also press F, then inset. It's messed up here, the reflections. Press all of the vertices, press Alt Z to look them in transparent view. Deselect this one. Go to the vertex groups, create new vertex group and assign these selected ones to this vertex group. Now you can select it and that's correct. Go to the modifier section and add a shrink wrap modifier. Vertex group is what we have made and target is frame backup. As you can see, the reflections is perfect, but from the edge you can see this is too sharp. In the vertex group we can first remove this from the group, make its weight around, for example, 0.5 and assign it again. Also we can add an edge loop here. That's really nice. Maybe we can add this one at weight 1, but remove this one and assign it at a weight low. Should play with these numbers. That's good. Now let's go here, change the matte cap to something more visible. Bring the 3D cursor here. Create a circle here. Delete these vertices. Press L, Shift D, X, S, X, -1. Active element, GX, F, I can delete this edge and copy from the above. Shift D, Y, L, M by distance. Two vertices are joined. GZ. I will delete these surfaces here. I will delete faces. Now, I will move these vertices down as close as possible to the surface. Deselect this one and remain only this one. GZ. Okay, now I'll go to the top view. I think we can select these vertices in the bounding box center SX to make them closer, move them closer to the circular shape. Now we can connect them. Select, press dot to focus on the view. The edge flow here is not good enough. Move this here, because after shrink wrap all of them will have the same curvature as a perfect frame that we have made before. I will bring these here and add an extra edge loop here for this one and here for this one. In order to make sure we have not corrupted the curvature here, I Ctrl X this one and this one. Go to the vertex group, select what you have so far. Okay, I will add these new ones to the vertex group. To dictate how triangulation should work, I will connect these ones J so that we don't have stretched surfaces. Blender itself in the background creates surfaces by connecting the vertices together, and by cutting these ourselves are dictating to Blender how should cut the surfaces. I will repeat the process here. I go to the edge mode, select this edge ring, Ctrl 3 to surface, E, extrude it downwards, remove it from the surface group, the vertex group. Now we have the perfect curved surface. Due to not having edge loops here, the surfaces is not good here because we have concave shape. I will cut down here and here. Perfect. I will definitely work more on this hole to make it more aligned. It has too much distance from the perfect frame that we have made. I think this is the best reflection possible we can get from polymodeling. If we want more perfect curvatures and product-ready 3D work, we have to use NURBS tools like, for example, Rhino or SolidWorks. But in the world of visualization, we try our best to have surfaces as close as possible to curvature we can achieve in NURBS tools. Okay, let's continue with the volume and power button. Maybe in the places that we don't need to have curvatures cut, we will exclude those places from the shrink wrap vertex group. For example, all of the vertices here can be excluded from vertex group because these surfaces are flat, unlike these surfaces. Okay, place 3D cursor here. Create a circle, align to view, scale it down, remove these bottom ones. Add another edge loop here to support this. I can delete this one. Later, when we create the top part of the button, we can duplicate and mirror it for the bottom part. I'll remove these vertices. Extrude this. Just like that. I press dot into numpad to focus on the selected vertex. Extrude Z, Control, EZ, Control, FF. Now we can shift DZ this part, select and deselect this vertex, active element. I hold down the dot to pivot, to select the pivot point, to set that to active element. GZ SZ -1 GZ. This is perfectly matched with this part. Now we can recalculate outside. And we should merge by distance this part. Okay, now select this part. We can inset it. Inset it one more time. And also create an edge loop. Press E to match with the left part, the inner part. Now we can extrude these edge rings. These ones. One is for the edge of the button and one is for edge of the loop, edge of the hole. And here the middle edge loop is the space between the button and the hole. Control 3 to select surfaces. E, X, and one more time EX. Now we have to move the button, stick it out around half millimeter. Control plus till I select the first support loop. that was created by extruding, and press GX005. Is too much. GX0005. That's not perfect because, as you can see, it's somehow oval shaped. Why? Because it needs an edge loop here after the circular shape to preserve the circular shape. Now is the capsule form of the button. Now we can slide this edge loop to make it more round. As you can see, we don't need any shrink wrap here. Now repeat this process for this part. Shift. First I will slide this or move this, doesn't matter because it's flat. Select this part, make sure to be in transparent mode to make sure all vertices is selected. Shift D, Z, match it with the volume rocker. To make it in the center, we can Control X it and add another one. Now we can create an edge loop here, a surface loop here, and also we can move this here and merge by distance. That is the volume button. Now we go to the bottom part of the phone. Here is the part that we need shrink wrap again, especially for this parts that overlap the curved corners. Okay, then we can hide the top part for the moment. Go to the button. I will move the bottom image to make the port and the speaker centered. I think this is good. Cursor to selected. Shift A, circle, scale it down. I added 15 cuts here. Deselect first and last vertex, Control X. I will add 15 here too, just to make sure the same distance from the edge. Control X. We can press F and inset, and also extruding inwards. Another one. I press Shift DZ and I select this one and delete faces. Now I have a separate face here. Okay, now come here and split these two vertices. Before that, I will add an edge loop here. I will make sure that I have the exact edge loop here in the guide mesh. The more geometry the guide mesh have, the better reflection would be. Now I go to the front view and try to align these vertices, this curvature, to have more precise shrink wrap. Now as you can see, the surface is flipped. I press Alt by pressing A and Shift N. Now I need to include these vertices to the vertex group I am using for shrink wrap. I will select this. I will press Alt Z to select all of the vertices here. Go to the front view, hold down the Control button, and deselect these ones. I go to the vertex group and with the weight of 1, assign these new vertices. Now you can see that before and after shrink wrap, the reflections are improved. The reflections are improved. I think I mistakenly assigned these vertices to the vertex group too. I should remove them. Shade auto smooth. That's perfect. I can remove these two and assign them by the weight a little lower than 1 to prevent from having too sharp edges. I continue to the USB Type-C port. I place 3D cursor here, add a plane, decrease its dimension, scale it down, SY, I press Ctrl Shift B to bevel the corners, and I will increase the number of segments by scrolling the mouse. And I also add some edge loops to control the curvature here. One here and repeat for here, here, and here. I will add some cuts here. I add, for example, 12. These are the 12 vertices that I have inserted. I deselect the first and last one and press Ctrl X. I repeat the process for the bottom part. Here's the port we want to add. In the guide mesh, we have a segment here repeated all over the phone because we have modeled a quarter of the phone in the guide mesh. I will dissolve this added edges here. This is the edge that I have added for the speaker hole. I will Ctrl X here. I also can repeat the process for here and here. I can dissolve these two. Now I will delete this vertex. I will extrude this to inside. Press X, faces. I also delete this face too. I can add an edge loop here and here. I can press F and press I to inset a little bit and use this as the diameter for the diameter for the USB port. Now I can expand this inset by pressing G twice and press C to preserve its direction and have a safe edge loop around my USB port. I'll create a face here. And here. Now you can see we have, due to the concave shape, we have some overlaps here. We can simply press J to join here and here to dictate Blender how to triangulate. Perfect. Same process here. Due to this part being flat, we don't need to shrink wrap this part of the mesh because the surface is perfectly flat here. But if I see any flaws and defects in reflections, I may shrink wrap here too. But so far, I see no problem. I will add an edge loop here. Press Ctrl plus and delete these vertices. For this part, I will search for grid fill. As you can see, it is twisted. I will offset it to align with my grid line. That's good. I can select this edge loop here, press Shift D and press F. I should select all and press Shift N. This surface is still inverted. I select it and press Alt N and flip. I think that USB Type-C port is too thick inside. Select this. Bounding box center, S, Y, and also S, X. Maybe I should move that a little bit inside. Good. Now we continue to the microphone port. I will slide this edge. Here we still don't need to shrink wrap. So that's not so important to match the reference model. I select this part, add an edge loop. I can bevel this edge to have two edge loops at the left and right of my edge loop. I press the vertex, press Ctrl Shift B. Two segments, but the profile shape this is good. I can scale it a little bit and inset it. Ctrl minus X vertices. Actually has a surface, I should just flip it. Alt N, flip. Now we go to SIM card tray. I can use these vertices and copy paste. Shift D, X, Control. Go to the bottom. Scale. Shift X, S, X minus 1. It's better to add a loop here to better align with the frame. I can copy this hole, Shift DX. Deselect this part. I'm trying to deselect the edge loop near to the surface. I should remove this one too. Can make them 0.9. Shade auto smooth. Also make it 0.9. I will turn on shadow and cavity to, I think shadow is redundant, the cavity is good to see the details better. Now we should check all of the angles to see if anything missing. We should model the antennas. Since I have placed a control loop here, I think when we add another edge loop here, the curvature won't change. 2 control loops here. Another one here. I can simply slide this edge to the left. G, X. And add another edge loop here. I think we are done with the frame. We should go on with screen and back panel.